it is the loss in my life that is leading to this decision towards life. This unbearable pain. If I were just the solo writer of my story, I would have never written that into the plot of my story. I'd still take my dad. I'd still take my brother back. But God's ways are not our ways, right? And pain has this way that if we listen, if we're open to it to be a teacher in our life, it can actually lead to life. Back in 2006, my dad and my youngest brother were running in a triathlon together, and my dad fell. They thought that he had sprained his ankle, and he actually went into cardiac arrest.
Oh, my.
And ended up dying on the race course.
Ugh.
My young 59-year-old dad took his last breath. And you know how you have those moments in life where you receive a phone call and it changes everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was one of my first phone calls where I can look at my life and I can kind of see a dividing moment, right? There was a before
and then
and there was an after from that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It was exactly that. And it just threw everything upside down, inside out. We had to refigure out who we were as a family, right? I have two younger brothers, and that was a defining moment in my past. Fast forward the clock to 2019, and I was sitting on a bus. I was about to go on a field trip with my youngest daughter, and my phone rings, and it's my sister-in-law. And you know how you have those moments where you're like, oh, what might this be? It's super early in the morning. And so I hit decline, texted her back, and I was like, is everything okay? And she texted me right away, and she said, call me. And you know how you receive those things and you're like, this is not just, I want to catch up. I could feel it. Like Holy Spirit was readying. And so I kind of hunkered down in the bus, told Gigi, I was like, Mommy's got to make a quick phone call. I call my sister-in-law, and she's just sobbing. And she knew I was going on this field trip with Gigi, and she said, I need you to get off the bus. Your brother's not breathing. And my younger brother passed away from a cardiac-related moment in his sleep. They had a 7-month-old baby.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
And that moment of my dad passing on the race course, my brother passing in his sleep. And these are moments in my past, right, that utterly got my attention. And there's something about pain. There's something about pain. None of us goes looking for it.
Right.
None of us gets in line for pain, right? We want to avoid that line. But there is something about pain that is such a reliable teacher. Such a reliable teacher. And both of those losses in my life are so integral into who I am now, into how I show up in the world, how I minister to people, how I hold space with people. And now fast forward the clock 2 years after my brother's death, and I started doing some research and started realizing, okay, my dad passed from some cardiac-related things. My brother passed from some cardiac-related things. Wisdom would tell me, do some research, Jeannie. Might there be some things that you need to pay attention to? Went to some cardiologists, did a whole bunch of testing, and recognized that there were some things in our family line that I needed to pay attention to. My heart was working fine, but there were some parts of my DNA legitimately that could cause a sudden stop in my heart. And so in 2021, I made the very hard but brave decision to get a heart defibrillator.
Oh, wow.
Oh. And I'll never forget being wheeled in to that surgery and thinking, it is the loss in my life that is leading to this decision towards life. This unbearable pain. If I were just the solo writer of my story, I would have never written that into the plot of my story. I'd still take my dad. I'd still take my brother back. But God's ways are not our ways, right? And pain has this way that if we listen, if we're open to it to be a teacher in our life, it can actually lead to life. And that unbearable pain has led me to wisdom with this heart defibrillator, right? I tell that story because I'm sure there's many women watching that have found themselves in a plot of their life where they're like, I don't want to be here, right? This is not what I wanted. This is not how I thought the story was going to go. And they find themselves in the middle of pain. And yet, if we're open, pain in our past can be an unbelievable teacher in the present. God can use it for our good. He works everything together for the good of those that he loves. In the scriptures, God talks about how he transforms us as he renews our mind. And one of the things that I have learned over the years is that the renewing of the mind requires participation. God is not going to just allow you to sit by and renew your mind if you don't participate. And one of the things that I most appreciate about my relationship with God is the way that I get to co-author my growth with God. God invites me to be a part of the renewing, to be a part of the restoration, to be a part of the transformation. And so we have to be willing to surrender. I feel like so much of life is a journey and a curriculum of learning to let go over and over and over again. And I'm so grateful for the ways that God invites us in to the transformation journey as beautiful participants of him helping us to become more and more of who he created us to be. How has God used pain? How has he used patterns in your past to grow you and to develop you in wisdom in the present?
Wow. Loaded question. And thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you
for sharing that. It sounds like, still tender. Thank you.
Great loss.
In 2014, I had become a single mom. And it was the category I had always tried to protect myself against. My parents were married for 54 years, grandparents 60 plus years on both sides of the family. So I didn't come from a broken home. So of course it's the category you don't want to be in. And so I found myself in a relationship and in a marriage that, lasted for a couple of decades, but for biblical reasons, it was declining and I had to forgive a lot and the whole nine. I wrote a whole book about it. Anyway, but I found myself eventually still becoming a single mom.
Yeah.
And now I have 3 kids, and I'm like, God, I didn't even do nothing. I prayed and I fasted and I stayed faithful and still here I am. The whole thing that we give. And we feel like we were right. And, therefore, it becomes a part of our badge of pride though too, So in this though, in that season, which lasted for about 6 years, I learned so much, not just about me, not just about being a single mom, but about the nature and the character and the heart of God.
Yeah.
I saw him see me in a different way that I saw him see me even when I was married or even as just a teen. It was like I learned him anew.
Yeah.
And so because of that pain, it was a painful season. It was a hard season. It was a season of, me learning to, start activating wisdom that I did not display prior to, because of that, I feel like now God has given me an influence that I wouldn't have had with single moms that now I can identify with. Yeah. So now like a mama bear, I stand up on their behalf. Now like a mama bear, I want to make sure that they're taken care of. I want to make sure that we can have conversations that I can say, girl, I remember this is what you got to do. Don't, girl, leave that alone. And now it's not just I know, but I have an experiential knowledge of that when I submit those experiences to God, and speak from that grid of fearing God, now the advice I give turns into wisdom among them.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have been able to identify in certain ways with them had I not experienced the crushing, the pain that you're saying from that painful season to now I see God taking it and he's working all things together for good. But he never promised everything would be good, but he would work it together for good because I love him and he's allowed me to be called according to his purpose.
I could not have made it through the things that I've made it through had I not trusted God in the pain. I remember several times that, I would have I would find out a new scenario of something that was happening in my marriage that I didn't know about in the past, okay? And I remember I would go into my closet and I would just break down and I would cry. And I would just tell God, though you slay me, yet will I trust you. It was in those moments that I knew I had a decision to make. And in those moments, the flesh would want to say, oh, if God was good, none of this would happen. If God really loved you, he would have spared you from the pain of this right here. But I was able, honestly, because of the power of the Holy Spirit, not because I'm good, not because I'm like some superwoman. I'm not. I'm human. But he allowed me to take that pain and to use it as an altar. And it became my sacrifice of praise. It became what I brought to the table and said, God, even in this right here, you're worthy. Even if you never give me a healthy relationship here on earth, a healthy love relationship, I'm going to love you. I'm going to serve you. I'm going to worship you because you've done so much for me already that I could never complain. If God hadn't blessed me with a wonderful husband as he has now, I'd still have 1,001 reasons to lift him up. Redeemer lives would still be true. You know what I'm saying? So my point is, I would encourage you to take your pain and use it as an altar. And on this pain, say, God, you're greater than this pain. I love you more than the things that have happened to me. I trust you even in this. And I promise you when you do that, you're going to see that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in you, as it says over in Romans 8, because God is faithful to his word, and pain is no comparison for the God that we serve.
At TBN, our mission is to use every available means to reach as many individuals and families as possible with the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you for helping make the gospel of grace go around the world.
And it's because of you that partner with us that this ministry continues. God bless you.